Fall 7 times, rise 8. It's more than just a phrase, it's a mindset, a way of living, a declaration of resilience in a world that tries, again and again, to knock you down. Life doesn't guarantee ease, comfort, or fairness. What it does offer, without fail, is challenge. And every challenge is an invitation to grow, to stretch, to become something more than you were yesterday. There will be moments that test you beyond what you think you can bear. Times when everything falls apart, when the people you trusted walk away, when your best effort ends in failure, and when the finish line feels miles out of reach, you'll fall. Not once, not twice, but again and again and again. And each fall will try to convince you that you were never meant to rise. That maybe this is where your story ends. But that's a lie. The truth is this: the fall does not define you. The rise does. The comeback is always stronger than the setback. What matters most is not how many times you fall, but how many times you decide to get back up. Every single rise is a defiance of fear, doubt, and defeat. It's a refusal to quit even when quitting feels easier. It's proof that your spirit is unbreakable. Strength isn't built when everything is going well. Strength is built in the struggle, in the dark moments when no one is watching, in the quiet decisions you make to keep going when your heart is tired. Every time you rise, you become more of who you're meant to be. Each scar becomes a mark of honor, a symbol that you fought, and you endured, and you didn't give in. There's no shame in falling. Everyone falls. The greatest achievers, the strongest warriors, the most inspiring people, none of them walked a path without pain. What sets them apart is that they chose to rise. They saw failure not as an end, but as a necessary part of the journey. They welcomed the fall as a teacher, a sharpening tool, a doorway to something greater. The path to greatness is not straight. It weaves through failure, disappointment, and pain. But if you can stand back up again and again, you will move forward, inch by inch, step by step. Sometimes you'll rise shaking. Sometimes you'll rise slowly. But as long as you rise, you're still in the fight. You're still becoming. Every rise is a message to your future. I'm not done. I'm not finished. I'm still fighting for what matters. And that persistence, that fire inside, cannot be taken from you. It can only grow stronger. So when life throws you to your knees, don't stay there. Take a breath. Feel the ground beneath you. Remember who you are and why you started. And then rise one more time than you've fallen. Rise with grit. Rise with heart. Rise with the belief that something better is on the other side of pain. Because every time you rise, you are rewriting your story. You are proving to the world, and more importantly, to yourself, that you were made for this. That no matter how many times life knocks you down, you will always stand up again. Fall 7 times, rise 8. And keep rising. Resilience defines success more than failure ever could. It is not the number of times a person fails that determines the outcome of their life, but the number of times they choose to get back up, learn, and keep moving forward. Failure is loud. It often draws attention. It carries shame, disappointment, and fear. But resilience is quiet. It works in silence. It is the internal engine that keeps going even when nothing seems to be working. It is that inner strength that says, try again, even when your mind screams to quit. Failure is inevitable. Every single person, no matter how talented, smart, or well-prepared, will stumble. It's part of being human. In fact, those who dare to dream big, who pursue their goals with boldness, often fail more than others because they are constantly pushing boundaries and stepping outside their comfort zones. But failure in itself doesn't define a person. It's not the end. It's a moment that either becomes a full stop or a comma in the story of success. And what turns that comma into the beginning of a new sentence is resilience. Resilience is the reason people bounce back after devastating losses, heartbreaks, and setbacks. It's the force that turns pain into power. When someone faces rejection after rejection, but keeps showing up, that's resilience. When they are told they're not good enough, smart enough, or strong enough, but continue to work hard and prove otherwise, that's resilience. The world often praises results, but overlooks the process, the perseverance. the thousands of invisible steps it took to get there. Behind every success story is a long path paved with failure, but carried by resilience. True success doesn't come from avoiding failure. It comes from facing it head on and refusing to let it win. The most powerful success stories are those built on resilience. People who have been knocked down repeatedly, who've heard no more times than they can count, yet still decided that their goal was worth the fight. Those are the ones who make history. They aren't lucky. They are relentless. Resilience is not about being unaffected by hardship. It's about continuing despite it. It's waking up with tears in your eyes and still choosing to show up. It's feeling overwhelmed, doubting yourself, and still taking the next small step forward. That is where real success is born, not in the absence of difficulty, but in the mastery of how you respond to it. People often fear failure because it hurts. It makes us question ourselves. But failure has value. It teaches. It reveals gaps in our understanding, shows us what doesn't work, and sharpens our skills. Without failure, there's no growth. Without resilience, there's no transformation. The people who succeed in the long run are not necessarily the most talented. They are the most resilient. They are the ones who are willing to endure discomfort, persist through adversity, and remain focused even when progress feels invisible. What makes resilience so powerful is that it doesn't rely on conditions being perfect. It doesn't wait for motivation to show up. It builds on discipline, faith, and belief in something greater than the current moment. When you are resilient, you stop letting temporary circumstances control your permanent decisions. You realize that the storm may shake you, but it doesn't have to break you. Resilience also strengthens character. It humbles you in your lowest moments and empowers you in your highest. It builds empathy, patience, and wisdom. People who have suffered and risen are often the ones who lift others. They understand pain, and they understand the fight it takes to come back. They don't just chase success for themselves. They inspire it in others. In a world that celebrates overnight victories and highlight reels, resilience is the truth behind the scenes. It's the late nights, the quiet prayers, the small wins that no one claps for. It's the ability to keep your vision alive when everything else seems to be falling apart. That type of strength cannot be faked. It must be earned, and once you develop it, it becomes a part of you that no failure can ever take away. So if you fall, fall hard. Let it teach you. Let it hurt. But then rise. Rise with more clarity, more strength, and more fire than before. Every time you rise, you are proving that success is not about perfection. It's about endurance. You're proving that what defines you is not your fall, but your rise. And that rise, no matter how slow or difficult, is what separates those who dream from those who do. In the end, resilience is what builds legacies. It's what leaves footprints others can follow. It's what turns ordinary lives into extraordinary journeys. And it's what makes success meaningful, because it was earned through struggle, shaped by persistence, and fueled by an unshakable will to never stay down. Every challenge is an opportunity for growth. It may not feel like it when you're in the middle of it, when everything seems to be going wrong and the pressure feels unbearable. But that's exactly when growth is happening, often beneath the surface where you can't see it yet. Life is not meant to be smooth or easy all the time. It's through the storms, the setbacks, the unexpected turns that we're stretched, tested, and ultimately shaped into stronger, wiser, and more capable versions of ourselves. Challenges push us beyond our comfort zones. They force us to confront our limitations, our fears, and our assumptions. Without challenges, we tend to stay in the same place, doing the same things, thinking the same thoughts. But growth never happens in stillness. Growth requires movement. And often, it's the challenges that create that movement. They shake the ground beneath us, disrupt our routines, and force us to find new ways to think, act, and live. The greatest lessons we learn in life often come from the hardest experiences. Success teaches confidence, but challenge teaches resilience. Easy times may feel good, but hard times are what make us good at problem solving, good at adapting, good at enduring. The most valuable skills you'll ever learn won't come from the moments when everything is working. They'll come from the moments when nothing is, and you still refuse to give up. A challenge is like a mirror. It reflects who you really are. It doesn't lie. It reveals your mindset, your habits, your emotional strength. And while that can be uncomfortable, it's also necessary. Because once you see yourself clearly, you can start to change. You can start to grow. Growth begins when you stop running from difficulty and start learning from it. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this trying to teach me? There's no transformation without pressure. A diamond is formed under extreme conditions. A tree strengthens its roots in strong winds. Muscles grow when they're broken down and rebuilt. Human beings are no different. You grow when you're stretched, when you're uncomfortable, when you're required to dig deeper than you ever have before. It's in the struggle that your inner strength is discovered. And once you find that strength, you realize you're capable of far more than you ever imagined. Every challenge also builds perspective. It teaches you to appreciate what you once took for granted. It helps you recognize what truly matters. It shifts your focus from what you lack to what you still have. It reminds you that you are not defined by your circumstances, but by how you respond to them. When you come out of a difficult season, you don't just walk away with scars. You walk away with wisdom. You understand life better. You understand people better. And you understand yourself better. Growth isn't always glamorous. Sometimes it's messy. Sometimes it hurts. But it's always worth it. Because with each challenge you overcome, you become more confident in your ability to handle what's next. You start to believe in your own strength. You stop fearing adversity and start welcoming it as part of the process. That shift in mindset changes everything. Suddenly, problems become puzzles. Roadblocks become stepping stones. And what once felt impossible becomes your new reality. It's also important to understand that growth isn't always immediate. Sometimes the benefit of a challenge isn't seen until much later. You may not realize how much you've changed until you're faced with something similar again and respond differently. You'll notice that you no longer break under pressure the way you used to. You're calmer, wiser, more grounded. That's growth. And it happened because you stayed in the challenge long enough to let it teach you. Facing challenges doesn't mean you'll always succeed right away. In fact, growth often includes failure. But failure within a challenge is not defeat. It's feedback. It's part of the journey. It's how you refine your approach and deepen your understanding. Growth is not about getting everything right. It's about continuing when things go wrong. It's about showing up again and again, willing to learn, adjust, and evolve. When you adopt the belief that every challenge holds a lesson, you stop seeing them as punishments and start seeing them as opportunities. Even pain, when processed with purpose, can become power. Even failure, when paired with reflection, can lead to progress. You are never stuck unless you choose to stop learning. As long as you're willing to grow, no challenge is wasted. Challenges are also gateways to new levels. You can't get to the next stage of your life, career, or purpose without going through resistance. Every promotion, every breakthrough, every transformation requires a price. That price is often paid through difficulty. But once you pay it, the reward is growth, not just externally, but internally. You become someone who doesn't just survive challenges, you grow through them and because of them. So the next time life throws something heavy at you, don't immediately wish it away. Take a breath. Feel the weight. Know it's not there to crush you. It's there to build you. Choose to grow through it. Choose to believe that on the other side of this challenge is a stronger, wiser, and more powerful version of yourself. Because every challenge, no matter how difficult, carries within it the seed of your next level. All you have to do is endure long enough to let it grow. The comeback is always stronger than the setback. This isn't just a motivational line. It's a deep truth proven by experience, grit, and human resilience. Life will knock you down. Sometimes it will hit so hard that it leaves you breathless, questioning everything you believed about yourself your strength, and your future. But if you make the decision to stand back up, to fight for yourself, to rise from the pain, something incredible happens. You come back stronger, sharper, wiser, and more unshakable than ever before. Setbacks are part of the journey. They're not detours, they're essential steps. No one reaches greatness without falling short, facing failure, or dealing with disappointment. What separates those who succeed from those who quit isn't talent, luck, or even opportunity. It's the decision to come back. Not just to come back, but to come back with more fire, more focus, and more determination than before. That is the essence of true strength. There is power in a comeback. It carries the weight of every lesson learned in silence. It reflects every sleepless night, every tear shed, every moment when giving up felt easier than pushing forward. A comeback is not about regaining what you lost. It's about becoming someone who no longer needs what was once essential to feel whole. It's transformation disguised as recovery. It's not returning to who you were. It's becoming someone you were always meant to be. Setbacks often feel like failure. They can break routines, destroy plans, and shatter confidence. But they also offer something more valuable than comfort. They offer clarity. When something falls apart, it forces you to ask, what matters most? It reveals the cracks you ignored, the weaknesses you avoided, and the truth you weren't ready to face. And in that truth is the opportunity to rebuild. Not just your circumstances, but yourself. A powerful comeback starts with a quiet decision. It happens long before anyone notices. It begins in the unseen moments, when you choose to believe in your future, even when your present looks bleak, when you choose discipline over excuses, when you start working again in silence, with no applause, no recognition, just the deep inner knowing that you're not done yet. That kind of strength can't be faked. It's earned through pain, patience, and persistence. The reason comebacks are stronger than setbacks is because they're built from the ground up. When you've lost something, or someone, or even a part of yourself, you get the chance to start fresh. You're no longer operating from illusion. You're building with intention, with awareness, with grit. You understand the cost, and you're willing to pay it again. Not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. What you gain in a comeback can't be bought or handed to you. You gain resilience. You gain courage. You gain faith in your ability to survive. You stop fearing the fall because you've already been there and you came back. That kind of confidence changes everything. It affects how you speak, how you walk, how you live. You stop needing validation because you've proven your worth to yourself. You've stared down defeat and decided it doesn't get to write your ending. People may see your comeback and celebrate it, but they won't always understand the depth of what it took. They won't see the doubt you wrestled with, the times you questioned your own strength. They won't feel the weight of the days you carried alone. But you will. And that memory becomes your power. It becomes a reminder that if you did it once, you can do it again. That even in your lowest moment, you still had the heart to keep going. Setbacks are temporary. They feel permanent in the moment, but they are not your identity. They are events, not definitions. The more you embrace that truth, the quicker you rise. The comeback may take time, but it's never wasted. Every step forward after a fall is movement towards something better. Even if it's slow, even if it's quiet, it still counts. Every inch gained after a setback is earned with twice the strength. The beauty of the comeback is that it inspires others too. When people see someone who fell, who failed, who broke, but came back stronger, they are reminded of their own capacity to rise. Your comeback isn't just about you. It becomes a light for others still stuck in the dark. It becomes a message that no matter how far you fall, there is still a way forward. That no matter what you've lost, there is still something worth building. So when you face a setback, don't panic. Don't lose yourself in the moment. Breathe, reflect, and remember that this fall is not the end. It's the setup for your return. You have more in you than you think. You're capable of more than you've done. And if you're willing to rise, willing to fight, to rebuild, to trust the process, you will come back not only to where you were but beyond it. Every powerful story has a moment of struggle. Every legend has a point where it looked like everything was lost. But they came back. And so can you. What's waiting for you on the other side of the struggle isn't just recovery, it's growth. It's strength. It's purpose. The comeback is always stronger than the setback because it's built by someone who has been broken tested and proven real. And that kind of strength doesn't just survive, it thrives. Falling is human. Rising is a choice. Everyone falls. Everyone stumbles at some point in their life, whether it's through failure, loss, disappointment, heartbreak, or simply running into a wall they didn't see coming. Falling is part of being alive. It's part of growing. It's part of the messy, unpredictable, and deeply personal journey of becoming who you were meant to be. But the most important part of any fall is what happens next. That's where the power lies. Because rising, getting back up, deciding not to stay down, that's a decision. It's not automatic. It's not easy. But it's always possible. There's nothing weak about falling. In fact, it often takes great courage to attempt something that might lead to failure in the first place. People who never fall are often people who never try. But trying, risking, daring, reaching for something greater comes with the possibility of not getting it. That doesn't make you less worthy. It makes you brave. To fall is to be in motion. To fall is to be engaged with life. But when you stay down, when you let that fall convince you that you're finished, that's when defeat becomes permanent. And that's why rising matters so much. Rising is the moment you take back control. It's the moment you stop letting the fall define you and start deciding your own direction again. Rising doesn't mean everything goes back to normal. It doesn't mean the pain disappears or the problem is fixed overnight. Rising means refusing to let the fall write the final chapter. It means standing up with shaky legs, a bruised heart, and a tired spirit, and still saying, I'm not done. That's strength. That's power. That's what changes lives. The choice to rise isn't about pretending you're okay when you're not. It's not about denying how hard the fall was. It's about honoring the struggle but refusing to be owned by it. It's about acknowledging the pain and still choosing progress. It's about giving yourself permission to feel, to grieve, to process, and then, when you're ready, to rebuild. That choice to rise may start with a whisper. It may not look like much from the outside, but inside it is the spark of transformation. When you rise after falling, you show yourself who you really are. You discover strength you didn't know you had. You learn what matters most to you. You gain perspective and clarity. Falling strips away the illusions. Rising reveals the truth. And that truth is powerful. You are not defined by what happened to you. You are defined by how you respond. Some people fall and stay down not because they're weak, but because they believe the lie that the fall means they're not good enough, that they're broken beyond repair. But that's not true. Everyone falls. What separates the ones who grow from the ones who remain stuck is the decision to rise. And that decision isn't made once. It's made every day. Sometimes it has to be made moment by moment. There will be voices, internal and external, that tell you it's not worth it, that you've fallen too far, that you'll just fail again. But you must choose which voice to listen to. And the voice of resilience, the voice that says, try again, even when it's hard, is the voice that leads to transformation. Every time you choose to rise, you're rewriting your story. You're becoming the kind of person who doesn't quit when it gets hard. You're becoming someone who keeps showing up no matter what. Rising may look different every time. Sometimes it's bold and visible. Other times it's quiet and private. Sometimes it means making big moves. Other times it means simply getting out of bed, taking a deep breath, and facing the day. No act of rising is too small. What matters is that you don't let the fall stop you from continuing. You may not move fast. You may not feel strong. But if you're choosing to rise, you are already winning. There's also a beautiful thing that happens when you rise after a fall. You become an example. Others who are still in the dirt, still struggling to get up, look at you and see what's possible. Your rise gives them hope. Your story becomes a light in their darkness. You don't have to be perfect to inspire someone. You just have to be real. And there's nothing more real than someone who's been through the fire and came out walking. The choice to rise is not just about healing. It's about becoming. Every rise makes you more resilient. Every rise shapes your character. Every rise brings you closer to the life you're meant to live. You stop being controlled by fear, by shame, by failure. You start being driven by courage, purpose, and faith. You stop looking at your past with regret and start looking at your future with possibility. So yes, falling is human. It will happen again. You will fall in big ways and small. But never forget that you always have the power to rise. No matter how far you've fallen, no matter how long you've been down, the choice is still yours. You can begin again. You can take the first step. You can rise, not as the same person, but as someone stronger, wiser, and more ready than ever before. Strength is forged in silence and struggle. It doesn't come in the moments when everything is easy, when the path is clear, or when applause is loud. True strength is born in the quiet moments, the moments when no one is watching, when no one is cheering, and when everything inside of you is telling you to give up. It is in those lonely battles, those invisible fights, that the deepest layers of resilience, courage, and character are built. When people think of strength, they often imagine bold acts of bravery or grand displays of power. But the real kind of strength, the one that endures and lasts, doesn't begin in the spotlight. It begins in the shadows. It grows during the nights you cry, but keep going anyway. It forms during the seasons when nothing makes sense, yet you keep showing up. It's in the silent decisions to stay committed when your heart feels broken, when your hope is dim, and when your energy is drained. Struggle is not a sign of weakness. It is the process of becoming stronger. Just like metal is refined by fire and pressure, human strength is shaped by hardship. No one becomes unshakable without first being shaken. No one learns perseverance without being tested. Struggle forces us to dig deeper than we ever thought we could. It strips us down, removes what's unnecessary, and reveals who we really are beneath the surface. Silence is where we meet ourselves. When the noise of the world fades away, when the distractions are gone, we are left alone with our thoughts, our fears, and our truth. And it's in that space, uncomfortable, raw, and honest, that strength begins to take root. When there's no one to lean on, you learn to stand on your own. When there's no one validating your journey, you begin to validate yourself. That kind of strength is unbreakable because it wasn't built for show. It was built for survival. People often overlook the strength it takes just to keep going, to get out of bed when your heart is heavy, to face another day when you feel like you failed, to stay committed to healing growth, or a dream when nothing seems to be working. These aren't loud victories. No one throws a celebration for these moments, but they matter, they count. They are proof that you are choosing to rise, even when rising feels impossible. Struggle humbles us. It shows us that we're not invincible, that we have limits, but it also shows us that we're capable of more than we ever imagined. Sometimes, it's not until we're backed into a corner with nothing left but willpower that we discover just how powerful we are. The strength that comes from those moments cannot be taught. It must be lived. And once you've lived it, you carry it with you forever. In silence and struggle, your identity is rewritten. You stop chasing approval. You stop measuring your worth by success or failure. You start recognizing the value of persistence. You realize that being strong isn't about being unaffected. It's about being unrelenting. It's about continuing even with a trembling heart, even with tired hands, even with a mind full of doubt. That is where strength is born, not in perfection, but in perseverance. There's a quiet dignity in silent battles. The world may never see them. Your victories may not be posted, praised, or paraded. But you know the nights you didn't quit. You know the moments you could have walked away but chose to stay. You know the internal wars you fought and won with no audience. That knowledge becomes part of you. It becomes a quiet confidence, a kind of inner steel that no one can take away. Strength forged in silence is the kind that endures storms. It doesn't rely on external validation. It doesn't crumble under pressure. It may not shine the brightest, but it holds the longest because it's been tested. It's been shaped by fire, molded by pain, and hardened by struggle. It has weathered chaos and come out standing. Sometimes we search for strength in all the wrong places. We look to the outside, people, achievements, praise. But real strength is built internally. It's built when you decide, moment by moment, not to give in to despair. It's built when you choose to believe, to try again, to take one more step, even when nothing feels certain. And most of those decisions happen in silence. If you're in a season of silence and struggle right now, understand this: you are not broken. You are becoming. You are in the forge. You are in the process of being strengthened, refined, and readied for the next level of your journey. It may not look like growth, but it is. You may feel stuck, but you're being shaped. Keep going. Trust that something strong is being formed inside you that will carry you through whatever lies ahead. One day, the strength you're building in silence will speak for itself. It will show up in how you handle pressure, how you lead others, how you show compassion, how you bounce back from adversity. It will be in your eyes, your presence, your energy. People won't always know your story, but they will feel your strength, and they will know it didn't come easy. It came from the fire you refused to let destroy you. Your persistence writes your legacy. It's not the big wins or the one-time achievements that define who you are. It's the repeated decision to keep going, especially when it's difficult. Persistence is the steady force that carves greatness into the stone of your life. While talent can open doors and opportunity may come and go, persistence is what builds something that lasts. It's the slow, consistent push forward, even when results are invisible, recognition is absent, and the path ahead is unclear. That's where legacy is written, in the unseen, uncelebrated moments where you refuse to quit. A legacy isn't made in a moment. It's created through a lifetime of choices. It's the sum of all the times you got back up after being knocked down. Every time you persist through pain, disappointment, or delay, you are writing a line in the story you'll leave behind. You're creating something that others will look at and say, if they could keep going through that, so can I. People may remember your success, but they will be changed by your struggle, by the example you set when things weren't easy, and you chose to keep showing up. Persistence is not always glamorous. It often feels like taking one slow step forward with tired legs. It's repeating the same effort when no one's clapping, no one's watching, and nothing seems to be changing. But that's what makes it powerful. Anyone can move forward when things are easy. Anyone can work hard when the results are flowing. But to keep pushing when progress is invisible, that's rare. That's what builds a reputation that lasts beyond the moment. You don't need to be the fastest, the smartest, or the most talented. What you need is endurance. The ability to keep pressing on when others stop. That's what will take you farther than you ever thought possible. Many people start. Few keep going. Even fewer finish. But the ones who do, they're remembered. Not because they had the perfect journey, but because they didn't give up when it got hard. They turned the struggle into strength and the resistance into resilience. Persistence is also what shapes character. It teaches discipline, patience, and humility. It teaches you that greatness doesn't come from shortcuts. It comes from showing up day after day, doing the work even when the fire fades. You may not feel inspired every morning. You may not always be motivated. But if you're persistent, you'll show up anyway. And that choice, repeated over time, transforms your life. Legacy is built when you persist through failure. It's easy to continue when you're winning. But when you fail and choose to keep going, that's when real strength is developed. Failure becomes fuel. It becomes feedback. You learn, adjust, grow, and continue. You become the kind of person who isn't defined by outcomes, but by commitment. And that kind of person leaves an impact far greater than momentary success ever could. Think of the people you admire, not for their titles or achievements, but for their character. Chances are they've endured seasons of deep struggle. They faced challenges that would have caused others to quit. But they kept going. That's why they stand out. That's why their lives matter. Not because they had it easy, but because they were willing to persist through the hard parts. When you persist, you also gain self-trust. You begin to believe in yourself, not because you always succeed, but because you know you won't quit. That belief is powerful. It carries you through uncertainty. It gives you the courage to take risks, to dream bigger, and to keep fighting for what matters most. That internal confidence isn't loud, but it's steady, and others can feel it too. There will always be obstacles, delays, setbacks, resistance, and even failure. But none of those can stop a person who is truly committed. The world makes room for those who refuse to give up. Eventually, your breakthrough arrives, not just because you were good, but because you refuse to stop showing up. And when it does, it will mean more. Because you'll know what it cost. You'll know the late nights, the sacrifices, the discipline it took to stay the course. You are writing your legacy right now. Not someday in the future. Now, in the choices you make each day, in how you handle adversity, in how you treat people when you're under pressure, in how you continue to move forward when quitting would be easier. That is the story you're building, one step at a time. Persistence doesn't guarantee a perfect life, but it guarantees a meaningful one with depth, one with integrity, one that others can look to when they need strength. When your name is mentioned, what do you want to come to mind? Let it be this: someone who never gave up, someone who kept rising, someone who chose progress over comfort, someone who wrote their legacy with persistence, one hard, earned step at a time. So whatever you're building, fighting for, or believing in, keep going, even when it's slow, even when it's hard, even when you're unsure. Because every step forward, no matter how small, is shaping the story you'll leave behind. And your legacy, the impact you make, the lives you touch, the strength you show, will not be written by the ease of your journey, but by the persistence that carried you through.